this with me. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those who are perishing. Yes, speak up for the poor and helpless, and see that they get justice. Learn to do good, seek justice, help the oppressed, defend the orphan, fight for the rights of the widows. This is what the Lord says. Be fair-minded and just. Do what is right. Help those who have been robbed. Rescue them from their oppressors. Quit your evil deeds. Do not mistreat foreigners, orphans, and widows. And most of us, as we age, we get to see our parents go through the deterioration of being old. And we all know that, like for my dad, and dealing with my dad, Dad was one of the strongest people that I ever knew, but as he got Alzheimer's and deteriorated over an 8-year period, he became extremely weak and vulnerable. The body of Christ over the years has always been an advocate for the weak, and the elderly is some of the areas that I have seen ministry in for 40 years. We have some great ministry here where I'm going to introduce people after announcement, but my two stories on the hyperbole is that there is a tremendous need for advocacy as well as support for the elderly. One of my close friends who worked with me in recovery actually started the first Christian recovery group in 1983 at Christ Community. Do you remember John Williams and Lion Timbers? Yeah, John was working at a hospital, and he found out one day that an older lady that came in from Benson was having surgery, but she didn't have insurance that would cover her hospital stay. So the people in the hospital said, we're going to do the surgery, but she has to go home. Well, she had no family, which is one of the big issues in our community. And so it was January, so she was a little old lady in her late 70s, and she said, what I'm going to do is after surgery, I'm going to sleep in my car, and it was going to be 34 degrees then. So John found out about it and had a fit, and he went and approached the hospital administration, and the hospital administration said, this is our policy. We're not keeping her. She can sleep in her car, she can do whatever she wants, but we're not keeping her. And of course your gut level thing is, this is medical care. Doesn't feel like medical care. So John, being a strong person, strong advocate, said, well, I'm calling Channel 9. And we're going to expose this hospital. Of course, the hospitals want to have a great profile here. And so guess what the hospital administrator did? Gave her a room. Yeah, she stayed. So the second one, and I have probably maybe 15 of these stories in taking care of my parents, but this one happened this year, that they're common with medical issues. And there are great stories. I don't mean to just paint negative pictures, but I'm going to talk about sins and oppression and how we're calloused in our community, and we need the body of Christ to be advocates and provide in this area. My mom is 90 years old. She still lives on her own and still drives, so look out. In the month of May, she got real sick one morning, called me at 5 in the morning and said, I think I need to go to the hospital. And we've been doing this regularly for about 3 years. So I thought, what I'll do is go out to this one outlying hospital, and I'll for sure be able to get her through the emergency room. So I got her out there at 6 in the morning. They did the triage, which basically just checked her blood pressure and some things. And when they finished, they turned to me and said, we don't have a room. And so I said, okay, so what do I do? And they said, well, you can wait for a room in the waiting room. Well, part of her problem was she was nauseated, and I don't mean to do this over lunch, but she was throwing up in the waiting room. So I'm out in the waiting room, she's thrown up, and after about an hour, I thought, this is ridiculous. So I went up to the lady at the front, and I said, would you call your other hospital and see if there's a room there? She looks at me and she goes, that's against our policy. So I went back, sat down, working with Mom, and I was trying to get her all cleaned up, and I needed some water, so I walked back up to the front, and I said, can I get a glass of water? The lady looked at me straight in the face with this tone and said, that would be treating the patient without admitting her. this is where you turn over the tables in the waiting room and drive out the money changers from the right? So I put her in a wheelchair, and as I'm going out, they go, wait, wait, wait. And I said, too late, we're leaving. So I went to another emergency room and got her fixed up. Now the thing that capped it for me was, 1 month later I got a bill for $269 without being admitted. So I called the hospital, I knew some people there, and they said, you can't fight it because they're charging that for the triage without admitting it. But the ethics of that, the injustice of that, infuriated me. That we have this stuff going on in our community consistently, and I give you 50 of these stories in so many different areas, that our community practices injustice and callous and hard-heartedness regularly. And in this area with the elderly, it's one of the big issues that we have. So we have 3 presenters this morning, but before we do that, Dave has some announcements. So.